They say satisfaction saved the mouse, but nobody mentions the one who lingers in the hallway, heart pounding, and steps through the threshold regardless. I've turned that instant over in my mind like a worn coin, smooth from too much handling. The rap at the door, the easy grin, the offhand welcome that seemed as ordinary as rain on a window pane. It was meant to be nothing, a courteous gesture from a familiar face who drifted in and out of our lives like a seasonal breeze. Yet here I stand years later, shadowed by the glimpse I caught, the pull I sensed, and the shadow I nearly let swallow me whole. It all unfolded on one of those hushed Saturdays, the sort where the walls of your home echo back your own breaths, amplifying the emptiness. My partner Alex was off chasing deadlines again, lost in a whirlwind of conference calls and late-night emails, the usual armor he wore to keep the world at bay. And Tyler, my stepson, had bolted for a camping getaway with his crew, leaving behind the faint scent of his cologne and a fridge stocked with leftovers no one would touch. The place felt cavernous, a hollow shell echoing with absence. Or perhaps I was simply tuning into it sharper than before. You know that hush that doesn't merely occupy space? It clings like dew on bare branches, chill and insistent, seeping into your bones. That was my afternoon, nursing a tepid mug of chamomile, gazing blankly at the garden beyond the sunroom panes, where leaves stirred lazily in a breeze that carried no promises. Then, a chime on my phone. "You around? Got a quick delivery in mind." It was Riley, Tyler's longtime buddy, the sort of young guy who'd charm grandmas at bake sales. Tidy haircut, steady gaze, manners polished to a shine. He'd always been the courteous type around here, a nod and a good morning that landed soft as a feather, an offer to lug firewood or scrub pots after a barbecue, the kind of reliability that eases the load without fanfare. So when he suggested swinging by, hesitation didn't even flicker. Why would it? I wasn't braced for upheaval, least of all the storm it would whip up in my chest. He arrived with a cloth-wrapped bundle, steam curling faintly from its edges, claiming he'd whipped up apple crisp on a whim. I teased him about playing domestic god, and he chuckled, admitting it was his latest experiment in the oven. I confessed how rare it was to have treats show up unannounced, and in that breath, the atmosphere thickened. Just a heartbeat, but enough to stir the dust motes into a subtle dance. I ought to have clocked it, that first sliver of light prying at the seams of my carefully sealed routine. Instead, he tossed out an invite over mugs of cider. "Pop by sometime? I'd value your take on my next batch." Delivered with such breezy charm, such genuine spark. And me, I was adrift in a sea of solitude. That's the anchor you can't shake loose, no matter how you twist the tail. I hadn't schemed or sought. I merely murmured agreement. And in that syllable, the compass spun wild. I couldn't foresee it then, but I'd already crossed an invisible line, tumbling into a current that would tug at me long after the waters stilled. On still evenings now, when the rooms grow dim and I cradle that same mug, peering into the gathering dusk, I ponder the woman I was pre that pivot, and the one who emerged, etched with questions that refuse to fade. So if you're inclined to cast stones, I get it. But if you've ever teetered on the edge of isolation and a flicker of regard, between chilled sheets and a gaze that warms, perhaps you'll nod along. Because certain tales don't ignite with fireworks. They smolder from oversight. And the fiercest yearnings often arrive disguised as courtesy. I'm nudging toward my mid-40s now, not ancient but no longer that wide-eyed girl chasing sunsets. It's this in-between haze where folks quit inquiring after your spirit, figuring they've got the measure of you already. Wed to Alex for a decade, he's solid in the ways that count on paper. Steady job, roof overhead, the checkboxes ticked. But threads frayed somewhere in the weave. Our chats dwindled, not from thunderous rows, but a gradual mist that blanketed the fields of our days, dense, muffling, unrelenting. He'd roll in past dusk, jet off for essential retreats, slump into exhaustion even when planted on the sofa beside me. Queries dried up on my end too. Anticipation withered. Simpler to drift that way. Tyler, Alex's boy from round one, clocks in at 18, still mapping his path with the awkward grace of youth. Sharp-witted, quick with a quip, phone a permanent extension of his palm like every kid these days. We rub along fine, no fireworks, but a quiet accord. He keeps his counsel close, yet I catch him eyeing his dad's vanishing act, mirroring my own quiet vigil. We don't voice it, but that pang resonates, the sting of proximity without presence, a ghost in the machine of family. Enter Riley, 20 now, Tyler's shadow for seasons. He's orbited our orbit forever, ever the gentleman, ever attuned. Yet there's a depth to him, a stillness that observes without clamor. He doesn't prattle to plug gaps. He absorbs. Initially, I chalked it to upbringing. The warm hellos, the sleeves rolled up for chores, the gentle mirth at my drier observations. But subtleties piled up. He'd hover post Tyler's retreat upstairs. His glances didn't skim. They delved purposeful, not prying but probing, like charting stars in a night sky. Once, wrestling with crates from the market, he swooped in, palms grazing as he relieved me. Fleeting, forgettable. Except it lingered. The steady heat of his skin, the nearness of his frame, the murmur. No one should shoulder this solo. I brushed it aside with a jest, but those syllables burrowed, echoing through skipped suppers, solitary meals amid vacant seats, the hush that no spotlight ever pierces. Lately, the air in our halls carried a frost unrelated to seasons. My partner's old chuckles reduced to relics on mantles, snapshots yellowing like autumn leaves. I hadn't named it yet, but a tide was turning, not with fanfare, but the subtle drag of undertow. And Riley? He hovered at its heart. Not through misdeeds, mine or his, but because my seams were splitting, and exhaustion blurred the edges of restraint. It was a drizzly Thursday when Tyler jetted off for his hiking jaunt, buzzing with that rare teen glee, perhaps savoring escape, or just the thrill of wild air over stale walls. I waved him off with a grin that masked the void snapping shut behind. Distractions beckoned. I scoured sinks till they gleamed, realigned spice jars in futile order, but surrender came swift. Perched in the sunroom, herbal brew cooling, I traced sunbeams fracturing on the floorboards. Ping, my screen lit. Home base? Bearing a parcel for Tyler, Riley. Doors open, I tapped back. Routine as breathing. He'd crossed this threshold countless times. He materialized with a tinfoil parcel, grin unfurling like dawn. Forgotten trail mix from last hangout, he explained, passing it over. Then, eyes locking mine, whipped up blueberry scones at crack of dawn. New twist, care to critique? Laughter bubbled up. You a pastry wizard? He shrugged, sheepish. Swing by for a brew? Low stakes, promise? Brew, scones, a nudge from a kid woven into our tapestry. Denial teetered on my tongue. Honest to goodness. But solitude whispered louder. Perhaps, slipped out. He dipped his head, as if scripting my surrender. Sleep evaded that eve, his timbre looping. Brew. Might suit you. Benign, no? Stepson's pal. Mere goodwill. Yet isolation warps lenses, blurs boundaries that demand clarity, turns crumbs of notice into feasts. Dawn broke, and my feet carried me theirward. No frills in my attire, just enough to feign casual. It was zilch, I insisted, scones, a sip, filler for a barren stretch. Bell tolled. Portal swung wide. His gaze hit like sunlight on frost, beyond camaraderie, knotting my gut. Quickening pulse unduly. He ushered me into a nook redolent of berries and hearth. Cozy as a burrow. Walls lined with dog-eared volumes and mismatched throws. I sank into an armchair as he steeped pots, steam-weaving tales of comfort. First nibble, flaky, tart-sweet perfection. Compliments flowed, he beamed. But scones weren't the draw. I'd stepped into a snare of subtler design, plummeting blind, nestled in that armchair, ankles tucked, palms cradling porcelain's glow. Lamps cast a golden haze, veiling edges without shrouding truths, just right for confessions in twilight. A melody hummed faint, strings sighing like wind through pines, blending seamless into reverie. The brew? Lavender-infused, my unspoken favorite. He'd clocked it from a offhand remark moons back. That precision stung sweeter than intended. Alex hadn't recalled my quirk sans prompt in ages. Riley settled opposite initially, posture open, chin propped on laced fingers. No digital tether, no wandering thoughts, just presence, pure and piercing, as if my words were the only orbit worth circling. Not ravenous, not yet, but invested, unraveling the layers behind my smiles, probing the pauses. And I unraveled too, not grand revelations, but a torrent surpassing weekly tallies. Idle chatter on cloud patterns, a novel's twist, a film flickering half-watched. He queried gently, chuckled true, held space in silences that breathed. Ease enveloped us, perilously so, and doubt coiled. Why this fluidity? Why this balm of being truly tuned in? Am I so parched for echo? Reassurances murmured. I strayed not. Mere converse over treats in languid light. Yet beneath the ember kindled and its warmth shamed me. Not solely Riley's doing. It was resurrection. Visibility after invisibility. Desire post-desolation. Vitality in a vein long dormant. Gazing his way, I beheld not youth or kin's comrade, but a mirror to my muted fire, a beholder who deemed me vital, brimming with remnants worth reclaiming. Then remorse slithered in, Alex's visage Aurora pierced harsh. Domicile's quiet crueler, facade erected, tidied nooks, eggs charred, feeds flicked absently. Reflections shunned. Tyler's return. Satchel thudded, weary salutation, sanctuary sought. But his swift scan averted plummeted viscera. Awareness? Altered aura? Remorse's mask donned? Paranoia, I chided, yet frost lingered. Terse exchanges, evasive orbits, air brittle as frost-laced panes. Riley absented, week 1, 2. His quietude bellowed. Vigil mounted for chimes, raps, signals. Vacancy till fortnight 3. Amid parlor's fabric folds, device hummed. Solitary dispatch. Each syllable rang true. I'd tarry for your shift. Unadorned, unburdening, a furrow drawn. Floodgates burst. Glow, yearning, confessions I'd damned surged. Message mesmerized, unduly prolonged. Unanswered, unexpunged. Nestled in archives, cipher soul mind to decipher. In lulls, when Alex's timbre fades to phantom, I peruse once. Query persists unanswered. Fiend or frail? That juncture loops nocturnal, not sprawl but crux. Palms entwined, limbs tangent, gazes fusing, stasis, then sprint. Spectral film of near misses. Boundary unbreached corporeal yet intent? If musings harbor intruders, if form graces hearth while essence lounges alien, imbibing and illuminated, isn't fidelity fractured? Alex remained ignorant. No utterance escaped. Apt juncture eluded. How narrate the ineffable? Articulate phantom pangs as visceral? Solitude clung, unvanquished. No epiphany, no seal, no serenity, just undertow's murmur, perpetual undercurrent. Remorse? Ballast unseen, lugged through grins, chores, pecks, charade of completeness. A fortnight passed, Riley materialized streetside. Market trek, tresses tousled, unscripted encounter, yet there, opposite lane, pockets brimming hands, crown canted expectant. Glance connected. Smile bloomed, subdued, intimate, evocative. Flutter stirred, not frenzy but affirmation. Vitality intact, illicit sparks viable. No beckon, no bridge, but onward, his curve tucked inward like missive indelible. Sighting ceased thence. Mercy perchance. But vespertine vigils when hush besieges sills, musings stray. Threshold untrod anew, yet hypotheticals haunt. What cascades if yielded? Ever teetered where alien regard gleams as grace? Not ardor, not craving, mere witness, auditor, companion in void, restoring relevance. That essence. Not transgression's brink, but magnetism to long-lost hearth. Resistance waned unduly. Thus self-interrogation, fault in portals yield that day? In prolongation, unbridled glee, excess sensation, or merely eclipsed soul seeking solace in unsanctioned glow? Judgments anticipated, optics stark. Yet you, attuned here, echoed that void's gnaw, subtle starvation eroding former self? Confess, transgression or tandem fractures fumbling wholeness. Strangers stitching seams, spill in echoes below. Your lens illuminates. Deeper fissures forge not in tangles, but in lingers prolonged, hushes eloquent, phrases resurrecting the numb. Isolation? Stealthy beast hisses, not roars. Oft that hiss mimics mercy. Tread wary at portals. Not all summonses cloak innocence, but let's peel further, shall we? Because that afternoon didn't end at the door. It rippled, reshaping the quiet corners of my days like water etching stone. Weeks blurred into a rhythm of avoidance and ache. I'd catch myself mid-chore, a dish half-washed, staring at the suds as if they held answers. Why him? Why now? Riley wasn't some reckless storm. He was the gentle rain that fills cracks you didn't know were there. And me, I wasn't chasing scandal. I was chasing the echo of my own voice, the one Alex had let fade into white noise. One evening, as autumn leaves scratched against the panes like impatient fingers, Alex came home early. A rarity, like spotting a comet in daylight. He dropped his keys with a clatter that shattered the hush, and for a split second I braced, hoping for connection, fearing the void. "Rough one," he muttered, shrugging off his coat, eyes already glazing toward the den's glow. Dinner warmed on the stove, roast chicken, his old favorite, but he waved it off. Not hungry, just need to unwind. Unwind into screens, into solitude side by side. I played it anyway, the scent of herbs mocking the meal for two that became one. Tyler poked his head in later, mumbled about homework, vanished upstairs. The table stretched endless, a battlefield of unspoken surrenders. That night, as Alex snored softly beside me, I slipped my phone from the nightstand. The message waited, unchanged. "I'd tarry for your shift." Fingers hovered, traitorous, typing fragments, explanations, apologies, invitations, before deleting into ether. What shift? The one where I shed skin, emerge reborn? Or the one where I admit the house we've built is more mausoleum than haven? Dawn found me unrested. Shadows under eyes like bruises from invisible blows. Tyler's wariness peaked around then. He'd linger in doorways, words clipped as if scenting the shift in air currents. One morning, over cereal that turned soggy in bowls, he finally pierced, "You okay, Lena?" Seem distant? His use of my name, not Mom, never that, but close enough, tugged. I forced brightness. "Just the weather, kiddo. Gloomy gets to me." He nodded, unconvinced, spoon-scraping porcelain-like accusation. Did Riley whisper? Or was it intuition, that teen radar for adult fractures? The distance grew, a chasm I couldn't bridge without confessing canyons within. Riley's orbit widened too, not avoidance, but orbits elliptical, glimpses at the market or park paths. Once, loading bags into the car, I spotted him across the lot, chatting with a vendor, laugh, carrying on wind. Our eyes tangled. He paused mid-sentence, that knowing curve returning. No approach, just a nod, subtle as a shared secret. Heat flushed my cheeks. I fumbled keys, hard a drum solo. Homeward, the drive stretched. Radio's chatter drowned by inner din. What if I waved him over? What if the car idled and he slid in, and words spilled like unchecked rain? Winter crept in then, blanketing the neighborhood in hush deeper than before. Snow-muffled footsteps turned the world to cotton wool. Alex's trips multiplied. Client in the city, team build out west, leaving me to stoke fires alone. Tyler burrowed into finals, his room a glow of screens and scattered notes. The house creaked under isolation's weight, every floorboard a reminder of echoes unreturned. I'd wander the rooms at odd hours, tracing fingers over photo frames. Our wedding, sun-dappled and smiling. Tyler's first bike, wobbly triumph. Alex's promotion toast, arms linked in feigned unity. Relics of a life scripted but lived? Fading script. It was mid-January, frost-etching ferns on windows when the dam cracked. A storm howled outside, wind whipping branches like furies. Power flickered, then held, but the chill seeped insidious. I brewed tea, lavender of course, and sank into the sunroom, mug steaming defiance. Phone silent but memory vivid. Then a knock, faint, insistent, swallowed by gale. Heart lurched. I padded to the door, peering through peephole fog. Riley, hooded in parka, snow-dusting shoulders, a thermos clutched like talisman. Riley. What on earth? Door yielded. Cold rushed in, nipping heels. Heard the forecast. Thought, hot cocoa might cut the edge. For you. And Tyler, if he's up. Lie thin. Tyler slumbered oblivious. I stepped aside, words tumbling. Come in, before you freeze solid. He shed layers, steam rising from damp wool, filling the entry with pine and frostbite's edge. We migrated to kitchen, thermos yielding rich, spiced warmth, cinnamon whisper, chocolate depth. Mugs clinked. Silence companionable at first, then charged. Why risk the blizzard? I ventured, sipping slow. His gaze lifted, steady. Couldn't shake the image, you here, storm raging, alone in the quiet. Echo of that afternoon, palm's ghost. Throat bobbed. I set mug down. Riley, that day. He leaned forward, not crowding, but closing circuits. No regrets from me. Just truth. You glowed, Lena, not the polite kind, the real buried kind. I saw it, wanted to fan it. Breath caught. Storm outside mirrored within. Turbulent, unrelenting. But Alex sees a partner. I see you. Simple, shattering. Palms found the counter's edge. Knuckles whitened. This can what, exist? It already does. His hand covered mine. Echo, evolution. Warmth flooded illicit river. Storm peaked, thunder rumbling low. Lights wavered. In that flicker, lips met. Not crash, but convergence, soft as snowfall. Time suspended. World narrowed to taste of cocoa and courage, his fingers threading mine, pulling me from ledge. But kisses, even tender, demand reckoning. We parted, breaths mingling, eyes wide with wonder and war. What now? I whispered, voice frayed. He smiled, thumb tracing my knuckle. Your call. Doors always ajar. Storm waned. He rose, layers reclaimed. At threshold, pause. Merit adoration, remember? Start with your own. Door clicked shut. Snow swirled beyond. Alone again, but altered. Ember stoked, not quenched. That night, sleep came dreamless, deep. Dawn broke crisp. I texted Alex mid-flight somewhere. We need to talk soon. No details, but intent clear. Tyler stirred later, sensing shift. You look lighter. Grin genuine. Maybe I am. Riley's message lingered, joined by mine unanswered still. But paths diverged not to dead ends. Mine veered toward light. Weeks on, Alex returned. Confrontation brewed over coffee, voices rising then softening, truths unearthed like buried roots. Not fireworks, but forge, admissions of drift, vows to reel back. Tyler witnessed walls thinning. And Riley? Orbit steadied. Friendship recast, boundaries etched, but gratitude etched deeper. I didn't shatter my world for a whisper. I mended it with one. Loneliness? Tamed, not slain, a reminder to tend flames within. And on still nights when hush returns, I smile at the woman in the glass. Whole, seen, alive. Curiosity didn't kill. It